Hi there, how you doing?
Hi.
Good. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Coffee with Father James. I am using the Our Lady of Guadalupe coffee mug because I want to tell you a little bit about what's going to be happening this week. The staff of Our Lady of Guadalupe Parish, are going to be having an offsite. So on Thursday, office will be closed. We're going across the bridge to a place that's owned by a friend of mine. It's kind of like a secluded spot, and we're going to begin with Mass together, and we're going to have some team building exercises and some review of the past year, looking ahead at the next pastoral year. In church cycles, the pastoral year goes basically from summer to summer. So usually things start slowing down by July. They pick up again in September, which means you've got to spend August getting ready for the startup in September. So that's usually the ministry year. It follows in a similar pattern to the academic year. So we're going to be looking at some planning for the next pastoral year, and the way I've described it to the parish staff is that we want to, there's the big rocks, medium rocks, and the small rocks. You've seen that exercise with the big container, and if you put the small rocks in first at the end, you don't have any room for the big rocks. But if you put the big rocks in first, it all works out. And so we've looked at what are some of the immovable things, the fixed dates that we've got to work around. The most important thing we do is evangelization, that we need to make sure those things are in place first. And then we can begin to position a lot of the other ministry activities around those things. And we're going to be focusing in on the medium rock. So good planning is necessary because, well, there's so many things going on. You've probably noticed. One of the reasons there are so many things going on different fronts, because I like to think of it as we've got the whole physical reality we're dealing with, all the buildings and dealing with their maintenance and the whole future thing. There's all of our social outreach work in North Dartmouth and here at the St. Peter's location. There's a great deal of activity. And then all of the activities around evangelization and discipleship and formation and liturgy, of course. There's a lot going on there. So there are so many things that we've got to work out. And which brings me to another point that I want to address with you, because sometimes we may hear around the parish, they're like, especially since we now have Father Robert with us on staff, it's like, boy, that staff just seems to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger all the time. What the heck is going on there? Number one, we might say, how can we afford this? Well, let me tell you something that's going to be communicated this coming weekend in the annual finance report. It's something that I haven't really made public in a sense, but it's not a secret, but I haven't made it public. And it's that half of our staff right now are not paid for from the Sunday collection. How is that possible? Well, let me tell you. Number one, Deacon David is volunteer. Number two, Anne-Marie Syme is paid entirely by Divine Renovation Ministry. Number three, Divine Renovation Ministry also donates $40,000 a year to the parish to make up for my time. That basically allows us to cover another one of our salaries. Two other salaries of staff are paid for by two families who have connections with our parish. In the last year and a half, I had conversations with those families and asked them if they would donate and make a commitment for 3 years to bridge us through the period of COVID. And those families, thanks be to God, said yes. That's another 2 positions, that's 5 positions. And finally, Jen Dean's position, which exists to help facilitate all of the activities that we see happening in the realm of social outreach. Her position was originally funded by a donation from a friend of mine, and we used it to hire Jen, who is doing a phenomenal job. And her goal, part of her job, is to fund her own salary, as well as build partnerships so that our social outreach efforts can actually be, so we can actually do it in a sustainable way, so we can partner with other churches. So that's a total of 6 positions that don't come out of our Sunday collections. Now you may be asking, well, what does that mean for 2 years from now? I know. I figure we'll deal with that when we get to it, but my hope is in the next 2 years we can grow our parish. But at some point, yes, we've got to obviously be sustainable. So we may have to scale back, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I just think that in this time of COVID, as we come out of it, and as we've been in a period of decline for so long, we've got to put our foot on the gas and try to pull out of this nosedive. So that's what we're doing. But I want to come back again to the question of staff, because again, you may say, well, why do we need so many staff? I mean, we didn't have that in the past. Yeah, we didn't. And we've been in decline for 40 years. Because in the past, 40, 50 years ago, the only staff you had was the housekeeper and the parish priest's dog. That was it. Because we didn't do the kind of things we do now, and we didn't need to do them because you had a strong Catholic culture, a strong cultural Christianity that no longer exists. So it means that we must put our efforts into evangelization, into discipleship, into raising up people and helping them to serve in the mission of the church. And you may say, well, but why do we need staff? Couldn't we just have volunteers? Yes, we can't do this without volunteers. But here's the question. Who raises up the volunteers? Who encourages the volunteers? Who supports the volunteers? Who looks after the volunteers? Organizational studies show that one person can usually only really support at most 20 to 30 people. We need hundreds of people to get involved. And everything takes time and effort. To have the more volunteers you have, the more people you need to support them. And so staffing is essential. I mean, that was one of the reasons behind the amalgamation or the merger of our parishes. It was to give every parish the critical mass it needed of resources to field a proper team. And this is the kind of team that we need for a parish that's going to move into the future. And finally, I'll just make this last point. My own philosophy of staffing is this. The job of the staff is not to do the work of ministry. It's to do, as St. Paul says in his letter to the Ephesians, to equip the saints for the work of ministry. We don't pay the staff to do what parishioners ought to do. We pay the staff to help support and inspire and to raise up and equip the members of our parish, because there's nothing greater than discovering your gifts, your God-given gifts, and using them in a way that makes a difference, in a way to serve the Lord, to serve the mission of the church and build up the kingdom. That's the greatest joy. And we want to be a parish that is full of parishioners who know the joy of that experience. In order to get there, we need staff. And in order to have staff who function well, we need to take a day off, not a day off because it's going to be hard work. We need to take a day away, an offsite, to do the kind of thing we're going to be doing this coming Thursday to plan out the year. So please keep us in your prayers. And I'm just looking forward to this next ministry season. It's going to be amazing. So thank you very much. Take care. God bless.